Hello, everyone. Welcome to Right Off Track, where we bring you insights, stories, and the occasional touch of obsession from remarkable individuals who've embraced their unique paths and made a lasting impact. Today, we are thrilled to have another awesome guest joining us on our journey of exploration and growth. Introducing Cosette Remund, who has a deep passion for helping coaches and course creators succeed. Cosette is an expert at simplifying the process of getting in front of the right people and converting them into paying clients. Throughout her transformative journey, Cosette has empowered countless coaches to fully book their calendars with dream clients or fill up their transformative courses through done-for-you sales funnels. With a background in business, leadership, and marketing, she leverages her expertise to make the complex seem simple. And she's also mastered some foreign languages and then helps use those in the realm of coaching. Join us as we delve into Cosette's experience, her drive for continuous learning, and her unwavering dedication to guiding others in embracing their uniqueness. So without further ado, welcome Cosette to Right Off Track.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's such a pleasure. And I was introduced to you by Earl Talbot, who is a common friend of ours, and he was just spotlighting you as somebody who has this spark, creativity, passion for what they do. And so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your story, share it with others. And I also want to hint that you have a unique take, like from other people, from what I heard about their experience in marketing themselves. So really looking forward to sharing your creative, unique experience around this whole process. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you are doing right now and maybe your journey into this branding creative space and how you got to where you are?
The journey, it's always a journey, right? So it's funny. I graduated with a degree in business and marketing. It was kind of like, oh, what am I going to do with this? My husband moved around a lot. I got pregnant pretty quickly after. I was like, I'll just be a stay-at-home mom. And I quickly realized that I need some creative intellectual something. Like I'm dying. So I got into the world of online work very early on, before it was cool, basically, and was teaching English actually. And it was really crazy. I look back with so much fondness at that because I was teaching English as a second language to children. Okay, this is not adults, this is children. And I've got really comfortable in front of the camera. You do weird things when you're teaching English to children, okay? Weird faces and all the things. So got really comfortable with the camera. And shortly thereafter, I kind of got tired with the weird hours, right? Because these are children in other countries. And so I was often early mornings and late nights. And then it's like, well, how can I do more businessy stuff? And this was my first 2 or 3 attempts at online business and entrepreneurship myself, was in life and mindset coaching. I attempted to start there. And I tell you, I worked with, I think I calculated it up at one point, and I had spent $30,000 on coaches and courses and help and support to help me get started. By the way, that's more than I think I spent in my college degree. Spent a lot of money, guys. And just I made $800 here and $3,000 there, but it really was nothing sustainable. And I kind of took it and I was like, all right, failure, quote unquote. Here's my failure experience. What do I learn from this? And at that point, I decided to go back into more of a corporate world. But this is when COVID hit, so everything was remote work anyways. So it was kind of nice. So I took up a job as a marketing consultant for a digital marketing company. And when COVID hit, it was everyone and their dog was I'm a coach now. And found myself coaching coaches on how to do this, which was honestly a great experience for me. I was like, here's what not to do. Here's what I tried. Don't do that. It was horrible. Don't do it. But anyway, so it was just this long journey of I coached there for a number of years and ended up becoming their top marketing coach. I led their highest ticket program that they had. It was a $30,000 program with millionaire coaches. And I remember there was one point in time where I started this with the CEO of the company, and he was I want to do this, but I know that I can't manage all this because I'm also running a business, right? So I was supposed to be the second in command, essentially like the accountability partner, right? Just making sure they're on track. Well, that lasted all of like 2 days because he very quickly was too busy to like run anything. So I was the one running all the coaching calls and like all the marketing strategies and like everything. And I just kind of like, I remember there was this moment where I was sitting there like, wait a second. I'm the one running this program. And like the sales guys get a cut of this program. My boss gets a cut of this program. The CEO gets a cut of this program. But I'm the one doing the work. Like, wait a second. You know, on top of that, I was also the one who was creating, like, in terms of creating courses, that was like basically my other job. I had like 3 jobs with them. But I also created the courses for them. I was the one who was like outlining them and designing them and like putting out the scripts and recording the videos. And like they would like look over it and they're like, oh, okay, that looks good. Or like, here's a suggestion, maybe do that. But like I was the one doing it. So I was creating like 3 or 4 courses a month sometimes for them on different marketing strategies. So like webinars and email sequences and all this kind of stuff. And it was a great learning opportunity. But I did kind of hit this point of like, so I'm a regular coach for their normal clients. I'm also creating all their courses and their like program content. And I'm running this high ticket thing and I'm getting paid like the same. It's like, wait a second. I feel like I can do better. So I left again. And I kind of made it my journey too. Like it was also this thing of like, I see all these things that this company is doing in terms of marketing. We taught literally everything. It was like how to find your niche and how to, I was the one who created that, by the way. That whole training. Yeah, that was me. And like webinars and SEO and social media and like all this stuff. And I was like, but there's still a good percentage of people that are not seeing this transformation of successfully leaving their 9 to 5 and having a coaching and consulting business. Or like they create these courses and they can't sell them, you know? So I kind of made it my mission. I was like, all right, I'm going to go into like the freelance world and I'm going to go figure out how do I make it easier for these people to succeed than to fail, right? Like, what does it really take? I was like, this was like my research period. What does it really, really take to make it easier to succeed than fail? And I would just went in, I was a freelancer. If you're not familiar with the term, for anyone listening who doesn't know, like a freelancer is just someone who works for themselves, doing services of some kind for some other people. So I technically categorize coaching as a service. It's just a different type of service than like a done for you service, right? So someone who's writing copy or who's doing VA work, right? That's a done for you service under freelance work. But like coaching and consulting, I also consider service, but it's more done with you or DIY on that side of the spectrum. So anyways, I like tapped into every corner of business. It was kind of fun. It was like, I remember I had this like hypothesis of like, I wonder if it's just that people aren't organized enough. Like they just don't have a really good system, like project management system. You know, they're too scattered. They're not focused. So I literally went into like Monday.com was like a really popular one. I went on and I picked up a client in Monday.com. I was literally never done this before, but like my confidence was so high that I could figure it out. I'm like, dude, like I get tech. I know how this works. Like, and if I don't know, like I'll just go learn and figure it out. Right. So I went in, I sold this client. I was like, I'll just help you clean up Monday.com essentially to see if that was the problem. And it was so fascinating to me because it was like this process of seeing like, I mean, it was kind of the problem, but it was more a symptom of the problem than the actual problem. Right. It was like people thought they needed this, but what was really happening was like, I found out that the one of the core people on that team was really like half in, half out in the company. And I was like, it was she wasn't sure whether she really wanted to be there. So her quote unquote productivity was down. She didn't even know if she wanted to be there. She was overworking. She was burnt out. She hadn't taken a vacation in years. And she was like half out of the company. And then they're sitting there like, oh, is she being productive enough? I'm like, yeah, that worked really well. Right. In the process of cleaning that up, we did a little bit, like I tapped more into what I had started with like mindset coaching. So I'm a certified master NLP practitioner and coach. So like I was pulling in some of those NLP stuff and working with her. And I mean, she had a beautiful transformation and it was great. And I kind of took that into, okay, well, what else? And what I learned through the process was like what I had tapped into that I didn't realize was by the very process of what I was doing, I was like, that's what was missing for people. People, like, I was approaching everything as an experiment, and I'm curious and like, does this work? Do people want this? Does this make a difference? How does this work? Like, everything was an experiment to me, and I was very curious about it. I'm like, yes, I made lots of money in the process. Like, I was hitting pretty consistent 10K months as a freelancer as I was testing. Like, this was not even like scaled up. I was just testing, which is contrasting that to when I first started. When I first started as a coaching consultant and like mindset coaching, right? I felt like I had to be the one who knew it. I had to have the right answers. I had to know what I was doing. I had to be able to walk into this networking room and be like, this is what I do. Bam. Now you want to work with me, right? Like the energy was so different. I felt like I put so much pressure on myself to know and to have all the answers. And then when I like shifted into that freelance work at the back end, like after I quit that job, I realized like, holy crap, like I've made so much more money. You know, I'd always dreamed, like when I was very beginning, I always dreamed of making six figures. If I could just make over 100K, right? But there was so much pressure, I never got there. And then like contrasting that with the second experience in freelancing, it wasn't the freelancing it wasn't the work specifically that I was doing, is the way I was approaching it, right? Like I had six figures my first year and like didn't even know, because I wasn't so like stressed out about it, right? I wasn't like panicking. It was just like, I'm just curious. And the money came and it like worked out. And I was like, cool. Like, it was one of those moments where I looked back and was like, oh, I did it, versus like just being like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You know, if that makes a difference. You just see what I'm saying? So anyways, like it was that. And like, that's what I teach my clients now is, and by the way, like that's much more of a, along my journey too, I trained myself a little bit in conversion rate optimization and conversion copywriting and fell in love with it. I absolutely love it. And now I bring that whole process as like scientific, let's focus on the conversion. Like what moves the needle? What pivots people? What changes things for you? Even just a little bit, right? Like we're all focused on like, if I could hit 1.8 million in my first 12 months, right? And I'm just like, yeah, but like, that sounds horrible. In terms of like, if I'm putting so much pressure on myself to get there and to know it and to have all the answers, like that sounds awful. But if it's kind of like I get there by accident because I was just curious and figured out what worked, like that's the other thing I noticed is like as I dove in and I stopped hiring coaches and I started listening to successful people. Like I just listened to their podcast and I was like, how do they think about this? And what I thought was fascinating is like most of the time, a lot of them like hit success and it felt like by accident. It was like this concept. I was like, what is it about these people who, when I was coaching them in this full-time position, were trying so hard and couldn't get it? But then it seems like these other people just like tripped over it and it happened. I'm like, what was that? And like that to me was like, it became that key to what makes it easier to succeed than fail, was the energy around, you almost have to like try but not try, if that makes sense, right? It has to be more of this like, I want to see if this works. It's a much more curious energy than it is this like professional corporate, I'm the CEO thing that we're so used to in our 9-to-5s, right? It's like 9-to-5 is this energy of like whoever knows the best and like is the best and performs the best, right? Then they're the people we will look up to. They're successful, right? You put in the most time, therefore you win, right? And I learned there's like this energy and the mindset around true successful entrepreneurship is much more of like A, I want to help people, and B, I'm running this ongoing science experiment of what helps best, you know? And so that's when I pivoted into like, well, I feel like my answer now is it's the testing, it's the experimenting. That's what's missing that makes it easier to succeed than fail. Because when we get super attached, we have this high attachment, you know, I want to get into psychology, like a high attachment theory to this thing being successful, we close our minds off to the possibilities that are out there. You know, when we're like, I just have to help people be happy, which is what I hear from a lot of coaches, right? They need to be happy. They need more confidence. And when we're so attached to that we don't see the other possibilities, we may miss the mark of what the market actually wants, right? So that's what I teach now. I teach a lot of just like, what's this thing? What's these like micro science experiments that we can do all along the way. So we're not like blowing our money on all these courses and coaching programs and paid ads and whatever that we're just losing money on and not seeing an ROI. Like, let's give it a micro test and make sure that this is the right niche that's profitable, that the market wants this, that they want to pay for this. And then like go in and set up the funnel, right? I'm like, every business should have a funnel. If you don't have one, you're wasting time, basically. But yeah, like how do we test it? And then once we test it, we have numbers. How do we make it better? Right? I'm like, that's the kind of thing that I learned is this having the one thing and being like, how can I make it 3% better and 3% better and 3% better and 3% better? I'm like, that's the thing that makes it more successful versus I need to get it all right the first time.
Love it. You are awesome. I'm listening and I'm learning and I'm inspired. One moment. And my dogs are excited too, apparently.
They're like, yes.
This is so true. And can I repeat some of the things that stood out to me? The fact that you were a teacher does not surprise me because I have just the most respect for people who can do that. It's such a hard job. So if you are a teacher or thinking about it, applause to you because I find that to be such an important job for our kids, like the future. And it's so undervalued. I honestly think it's so underappreciated. And so thank you for that. But also I'm curious, seeing your confidence, seeing that curiosity, the brilliant mindset that I just observed. How did you cultivate that? Was that just something like, I'm born with it? Because you mentioned you came into this, corporate setting, you learned a lot, and I feel your energy. Like, I'm going. I'm curious. I'm going. And it honestly also reminded me, have you heard of the Adam Grant's book, Think Again? I think it's like,
I haven't. I should look at it though.
He talks about the researcher mindset and embracing that. And it just resonated with what you talked about, where if we approach our whole life as like a science experiment, we're open to being wrong. And so much of our limitation actually comes from protecting this identity that's grounded in our ego and being right. But that makes us very, very confined, right? And I think that works in the corporate world to some degree because that's kind of what's expected of you. There's a very defined scope of who you are and what you do, and nothing against that. We grow, we learn from that. But if we're open to experimenting, to being wrong, to redefining what we know, then so many more opportunities come. And to your point, what I love is like, you don't feel like it's really that hard of the work behind it isn't as hard because you're having fun. It's also fun to be curious and explore. So a little off tangent there, but would love to just dive in and understand, how did you develop this confidence to be like, okay, world, here I come, hear me roar.
Go, friends. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of this like, I think to some extent, a lot of that confidence comes from learning to be okay with being wrong. Right? I think so many times we put so much pressure on ourselves to be right all the time. Like, I got to know all the answers. I have to be right. I have to all this pressure we put on ourselves to be right. And I think like when we can separate from that mindset perspective of what meaning we get out of this, right? Like, I came to understand like these little micro mindset shifts along the way of like, it's not the event itself was neutral, right? Me, quote unquote, failing in my first two businesses was a neutral event. It was something that happened, just like it's cloudy or rainy or sunny today, right? It's just neutral. It doesn't mean anything. But it's what the meaning that we attach to that and the meaning that we make of it, right, is the difference. So for me, it was like, I mean, when you think about it, like if we took something like failure, a business failure, like that, I launched this thing and it didn't work, okay? If we took that and we did the same thing that some people do when they fail in business, that it to something random, like it's raining today, or the sun came out today. Let's do a different one, like, because raining can sometimes be like that, right? It's sunny today. Like if we took the exact same reaction that we have when we fail, like, oh my gosh, I'm so horrible, I'm so stupid, I don't know anything, this was wrong, I shouldn't have done this, blah, 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 right? That like all that crap that we do to ourselves when we quote unquote fail, if we did the same thing when it was sunny, like we would look at that, like, what is wrong with you? right? Like, oh my gosh, the sun came out today. I am so stupid. What is wrong with me? I'm such a failure. I can't do anything. This is never going to work out because the sun came out today. Like it's laughable when we do that, right? Like that makes no sense. But what's funny is it's the event itself was neutral and it's the meaning that we gave to it, right? Like, is it possible that someone could give that meaning to the sun coming out? Yes, but it would be silly. And that's the same thing. I mean, if you want to talk about like confidence, I'm like, well, the biggest thing to give you confidence is to be okay with what others might define as failure and to not make it mean anything about you. It doesn't mean anything. It literally doesn't. Like if we did the same thing to a toddler who's standing up for the first time, oh my gosh, you didn't make it. You're such a failure. You're so horrible. Oh my gosh, that's Elaine. You're never going to do it. You would never talk to a toddler like that. Like, come on, right? You're just like, you're doing great. Keep going. You can do this, right? It's the same thing. Like building a business is just like a toddler learning to walk for the first time. They've got to learn to stand. They've got to learn to get their balance. Like in business, we call this alignment, right? They've got to get their balance in the business. And then they've got to learn one foot in front of the other, right? And to be honest with you, like expect that you will fall on your butt. Expect that you're going to be told no. Expect that it's not going to work out. Expect that like there are going to be tight monetary months. It's going to happen. That doesn't mean anything about you and your capabilities though. Right? It's like detaching. Most of us like link those two things. It's like detaching the links. Like those two things are not correlated. You falling on your butt as a toddler does not make you a bad person. You getting a no from someone who wants to hire you, like a potential client, or failing, getting no client, no paying monies on your first course launch does not mean anything about you. It's just a lesson. Like it's one of those, like you take the data from it and you look at the data and you say, all right, where are we at? I've had people be like, I launched my coaching program and no one bought it. I'm like, well, what'd you do? Like I did a workshop and then I brought him into this thing and I asked him to get on a call and then like nobody booked the call with me. I'm like, my first question is going to be like, most of the time people will link those two. Well, now I'm going to make this mean all sorts of things and nobody likes me. Nobody wants to pay me. And this is blah, 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 blah. We make all this crap about ourselves, right? But if you detach it and you look at those and you say, well, how many people came to your webinar? Right? And they're like, oh, 20 people showed up. I'm like, well, there's your problem. Like it's math, it has nothing to do with you, right? If 20 people showed up to your webinar, okay, this is where like I will geek out about conversion rates. I'm like, oh, conversion rates I feel like are so empowering when you understand them because you're like, I'm not going to like beat myself up anymore because I have a better expectation, right? Okay. 100% of people will never buy from you. That is not a business that exists on the face of the planet that has 100% of its people buy from them. I guarantee to you, even Amazon does not have 100% of its people buying from them. Okay. Like someone is going to tell you no. So it's just a matter of like, I mean, it depends on this is where I get into like funnels, but like it depends on your specific strategy and your specific ask. But like a good conversion rate is like 30% on average. Again, depending on price points and what the ask is and all sorts of things, but like somewhere around 20 to 30% is a good thing, right? So like if you had 20 people show up on like sign up for your webinar, I'm gonna do like quick math super fast. Like if you have 20 people show up in your webinar, 30% of them convert. That means a maximum of 6% of people or 6 people of the 20 are going to do something that you ask them to do, right? But that doesn't account for people not showing up, right? Like you're going to lose people. So if 20 people register, let's say 50% of them show up, that's 10 people who actually hear your message, right? 30% of 10 is 3. And that's like a high end. For your first time, you may get 1, you may get none, right? Like that's if people showed up. So it's kind of one of those like, it doesn't mean anything about you. It just means not enough people saw it.
Absolutely. I love how you think. I can just see you get excited about this topic, like very genuine. And I love also the decoupling from self-worth to it's a math problem, it's fixable.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that, if I can mention, I recently just launched this podcast. And the first day I was like, I did all this work, launched 3 episodes, and I looked at my numbers and I was like, oh, nothing's happening. Nobody's listening. And I had this moment where I was like, well, I failed. And I want to mention that because it was good because it was like, well, you have this worst case scenario when something big happens. And then I was like, well, I'm going to still keep doing it because, and not in the sense like I'm going to keep failing, but what I meant was like, I put in the work, I'm going to keep working and learning and developing. And
Yeah.
I actually was really proud of the next couple of days. Like, we've seen really good growth, and I'm super grateful to anybody and everybody listening. So excited for you. But it made me face that worst case scenario where I was like, okay, it's happening. It's not the end of the world. This work is still meaningful to me, and I'm going to keep on improving and doing it. So if it helps anybody, like, I just went through that where it's like, okay, I am there. Like, what am I doing? Is this still important to me? I'm
Mhm.
still learning a lot. I'm still curious. I'm still improving. But overcoming that, there's also power where you're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm still alive. I'm still doing this. I still have room for improvement. And then things come and you're really grateful for it too. It's part of the process.
It is. And like, I like that point because like one thing that I've learned too is it's like, it's about like any of those things that we've been like afraid to face for ourselves, like those worst case scenarios that we're afraid of. Um, Majority of the time they show up in entrepreneurship as like, it's time to face this and kind of detach that, oh crap, I launched this and I failed, to what you like, the way that you did that was beautiful, right? Like, yeah, it sucks to feel like nobody wants to hear what I put so much effort into, right? And also that approach of like, do I want to do this just for the sake of doing it? Is it worth it to just do this thing even if nobody listens? And that's a good point, right? It's that moment of like, I think so many of us are so used to chasing the money. We're so used to chasing success. And when it doesn't happen right away, we start to make this like, oh no, I'm not meant to be wealthy. I'm not meant to be successful. I'll just, settle. Meh. Okay. Like that's not what that means. Reminds me of a quote, a poem from Mother Teresa. It's called Do It Anyway. It goes through like the series of stuff, but essentially the concept is like what you create, like what takes you years to create, people may destroy in a day. Create anyway, right? It's this concept of like you may put so much effort into this one thing, and like the rest of the world, they may destroy it, they may rip on it, they may troll you, they may like call you a liar and all sorts of bad names, they may like whatever, they may try to destroy it, but the process of doing and creating, right? Is it still worth it for you? Versus, some people have this like, I'm doing it because I want the money. Well, if we're chasing it for the money, then I guarantee you it's not worth it. It's just not. Like, just go get a job and be a great CEO or something. I don't know. Like, don't do it. Right? Versus if we're doing it, like if we have this, like, I'm doing it because I genuinely love this and I'm curious about this and I'm interested in this and I'm exploring this or I'm having fun with this, by all means, like just, it makes it worth it,
Like, and can I mention one thing that piqued my interest when we were talking? I was getting into this whole entrepreneurial thing. I'm like, I want to be on all the social media, and I'm doing
Mhm.
it, but I know you have a different take. So let me know, because I want to give very different perspectives to
Mm.
the audience so they can learn and have their own opinion. Like, that's the side of intelligent person, is like, listen to different opinions. Don't take everything, like, be critical. So would love to hear about your thoughts on social media and what's worth it for entrepreneurs or people who are trying to build something of their own.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another thing that a lot of coaches and consultants come to me like, well, I'm on all 10 platforms, but I'm not seeing, I'm just like, oh, good heavens, you're wasting your time. Like, there's so many social media platforms out there. I'm like, you even talk like, I mean, there's the big Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, but then there's also like Clubhouse was huge when it came out. There's so many options nowadays that it's like, okay, first of all, like, I think people get a little perfectionistic about this, like I just need to be on all the platforms and be everywhere so people can see me. I'm like, first of all, recognize that's a scarcity mentality that you have to be everywhere for people to see you. Like, here's the thing. If you really truly believe that in your work and in what you're doing, like one or two will be sufficient for you, is my perspective, right? Like, I see so many people scatter everywhere and it's just like they're spread so thin, and it's like, here's the thing. Like, if you spread yourself thin over 5, 10 platforms, whatever it is you're doing, right? You are going to get thin results. End of story. You just will, right? It's this concept of like when I talk about this, social media as a part of the sales funnel strategy, right? Because lead generation is a part of a sales funnel. And so I talk through this with my clients as well. And one thing that I tell them is for every platform that you're on, you need to plan on spending a minimum of 30 minutes per time that you post or share something on that platform, period. If you are not willing to spend that 30 minutes on that platform, it's probably not worth you being on that platform. Now, there are strategies you can use to like have a presence on the platform without really being active on the platform. Like I know people who make millions of dollars and post 30 times a year on Instagram. Like frequency and amount of time you spend on a social media platform does not equate directly correlating to how much money you make in the bank, right? So it's just, again, detaching like the time and effort and all the places that you're on don't directly correlate. And like be aware of like what you want to do. Because again, if you're spreading yourself thin, just thinking, I have to be on all platforms. I got to show up here. I got to show up there. Okay. That's a great symptom of you spreading yourself way too thin. And that it means you're going to get thin results. So it's far better to pick 1 or 2 platforms, maximum of 3, that you're going to go deep on and get good results off of those platforms. And then when you have a bigger team, by all means, like you can afford to pay to have a social media management team, then go join the other platforms if you want to. But like when you're doing this all on your own, remember you're one person in there 24 hours in a day. And I hope you're sleeping. So if, even if you do the math again, right? Like if you're doing the math, it's like if you're on, let's say the most common ones I see are Instagram and Facebook, which are kind of similar, but different. There's a difference between the two. Even if you have them connected to cross-posting. Okay. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube tend to be the biggest 7, I would say. So even if you look at these 7, right, you're going to spend 30 minutes per day on these 7. That's 210 minutes, right? 210 minutes per day on each of these platforms. That's just the posting and engaging with the community part. It has nothing to do with how much time it actually takes to create your content and come up with your captions and do your hashtag research. And like if you're doing videos to take your videos, to edit your videos, to put music to the videos, like it has nothing to do with how much time you're actually spending creating this content, right? There's just a lot of time. And if we do the math again, like that's 3.5 hours a day just to post. So if you're looking at like, again, pull it mathematically. If I have 24 hours, in theory, I'm sleeping 8 of them. Hopefully I'm eating at some point in time and like basically taking care of myself and going to the bathroom. Like that takes time. And it's like, even if I committed the rest of the time in my 24-hour period to working, right? If you're on all those platforms every single day, I'm like, that means the rest of your day is basically you're spending it entirely creating content and posting, which is, to me, is just like, it leaves no room for anything else. So it's kind of this, like, I think people sometimes, one thing that's really helpful is recognizing, like, if you did everything you were told to do and you like actually mapped it out and said, calculating, like, I've spent 30 minutes here. If I sit down and have a 30-minute lunch, I do my 8 hours of sleep, I get my hour of exercise. Like, you actually clock it out of all the things you should be doing, guarantees you it equals more than 24 hours in a day. Which means something's got to give. Like, you have to, like, this is kind of the thing, like, this was a shift for me that made a big difference, is like, you literally cannot fit everything into a 24-hour period, and it's not meant to. Therefore, like, people talk work-life balance, right? It's like literally everything cannot fit. It just cannot. And so if you give yourself a little grace and say, something's going to have to give, and today I'm making the choice, and the thing that's giving today is that. It just makes it so much more freeing to just be like, I don't have to do everything. And the choices I'm making today with my time are aligned with where I want to go. And I'm okay with that. Versus feeling like you have to be everywhere all the time, doing everything because some random person told you to. Like,
so powerful. And I'm looking at the clock, and I want to be respectful of your time, but I also am really excited about working with you, because I'm like, okay, I need to get a little better in some of these areas for sure. But you also have a really exciting launch, right? Finding your profitable niche in a weekend. Sounds amazing. Can you tell us about that and just how people can work with you? Because I'm sure people are thinking, whoa, I need more of that in my life. How do I reach out?
Yeah. So, so that's great. I'm really excited. That's a program that I've been working on from my years of experience. This is like version 100 of how to find a profitable niche. Because again, remember, I created that way early on in my career. And then like, as I coach, I keep tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. I'm like, yeah, this is how I want to teach this. So I'm really excited for that. I'm like recording some of this stuff and creating the workbooks. And again, simple. I even coach myself. Remember, keep it simple. I know I have this beautiful vision of how gorgeous I want this workbook to be. And also we're going to simplify for version 1. So that's coming out, and that's going to be on my website at scalablecoaching.us. And I'm super excited for that. By the way, my children clearly are as well. Hey, kids. True life is an entrepreneur.
Mom life.
This is what happens for sure. So anyways, I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to share more of like what I've learned about what it takes to really create and identify this profitable niche, along with like a lot of that's going to be how to do these micro tests to identify what's going to be profitable really quickly, right? This is not like go spend 3 months trying to figure it out. It's like, now here's a quick test that you can do within a week or so, right? So we come up with the concept in a weekend, and then you test it for maximum of a week. And then you have your answer, and then you can go in with more confidence knowing, yes, I'm going the right direction, or nope, I need to pivot. So I'm excited about that one.
I'm going to check it out. Like, sincerely, I'm going to follow up with you because I'm still learning so much. I'm like, I am spending a lot of time in different areas. So after this, I'm going to reach out to you sincerely and learn from you and share some thoughts on that. So excited.
Yeah.
And was there anything that we missed? I have 3 speed questions before I let you go, but I also want to make sure I give all your brilliance some time to shine.
I think hopefully we could talk forever. I'm like, this is one of those, like, I could literally just keep talking about this forever. And also, like, I recognize that listeners, and for the space of time that we have, again, it's one of those, like, there's literally not time enough to hold all of the wonderful things that I would love to talk about, which is why I do the how to find your profitable niche in a weekend course and my coaching. And like, I have those packages for that reason, because talking about time, right? The most important things to know are the things we've talked about. So
I appreciate you. And please come back again. Can we do this again? Can we have a Cosette Remund part 2 and more insights and more experimenting? Because I would love that.
Yes, let's do it. We'll plan like a part 2
reunion.
How did it go reunion thing.
I love it. Okay. Well, this was a blast. Please reach out to Cosette if you're thinking about going to space, or you're struggling, or you're like, hey, I feel a little bit overwhelmed. Don't do it alone. Reach out and give it a chance. Like, be experimenting. Have fun. Like, if you feel like you're sucking the energy out of yourself through this process where you thought it's going to be exciting and filling you up, this could be your sign to try something new and hopefully bring some life into the process.
Yes.
That's my little pitch, because I'm excited to learn from you.
So right there, more fun.
Love it. Exactly. What can you lose if you're already in it? Why not try something different that could actually work and save you time and money, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, this has been a pleasure. Are you ready for our last 3 questions before I let you go back to your kids who are excited?
Let's go.
Okay. Ready. Okay. My favorite daily habit is
going outside.
Okay. If I could have a superpower, it would be
one where like I could just understand and speak.
Short sentence. Yeah, short sentence.
Yeah. Like, it has to do with languages, so I could just speak any language and understand any language.
That is mine. Sincerely,
Yeah.
That is so. Yes. We can talk about that more offline, because it's the best superpower. Okay, last one. In a positive context, going off track is
going off the beaten path and trying something different, because you never know what like beautiful gems you're gonna find that maybe nobody else has, or like they're just this like beautiful space that's meant just for you that honestly isn't on the track.
I love it. Well, Such a pleasure. Thank you so much again. I'm going to post all of the information in the description about how to reach out to Cosette and her courses. So please check those out. I also appreciate you sharing what you took away from this. What questions do you have? What insights did you derive? Tag us on social media if you're on there or wherever.
Social media. You may not see me
Email us wherever you are productively. We love to hear your feedback. And thank you again for coming right off track with us. Thank you again for coming right off track with us today. I'm so grateful you're here. Until next time.